Whether you're fighting, healing, caregiving, treating cancer, or simply searching for hope, this space is for you. Welcome to FU Cancer, where meaningful conversations meet powerful community. My name is Juliette Jorgensen. I'm your host, a registered dietitian and cancer advocate, and together we're turning challenges into connection. Check out our platform on the web at fucancer.health. Welcome, Dr. Lau. It's so wonderful to have you here with us on the podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. So, Dr. Kelsey Lau is a former competitive soccer player with over 4 years of phase 1 through 3 clinical research experience, including 2 years at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. She's a board certified physical medicine and rehab physician, completed an oncology rehab fellowship at University of Michigan, and now serves in multiple roles, most important to the FU Cancer family as our Chief Medical Officer. Welcome, Kelsey. Thank you.
hmm
Thanks for all that you do for us. We're so
hmm
thrilled and grateful to have you here.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and kick it off with some questions.
Okay.
So let's start with your story. I would love to dive a little deeper here. You were a competitive soccer player before entering medicine. What originally drew you toward healthcare and eventually toward oncology rehabilitation specifically?
Yeah, we're gonna go way back here. So I never saw myself in medicine, actually. I wanted to play professionally and ended up breaking my femur from soccer, which then herniated a disc in my low back. And I went through loads of rehab related to the broken femur and ended up having back surgery and rehabbed and then re-herniated. And actually
Mm,
was told to quit playing soccer in college
wow.
if I wanted to have any kind of quality of life as I aged. And so I went through my own personal journey with rehab and just really saw the patient perspective of
Mhm.
that. And so I think that was like number one in terms of like my entry into medicine. And then, in terms of, I think, how I found myself working with cancer patients specifically is a little bit of a windy road. I actually got involved with a cancer camp in Montana in college as I was recognizing that soccer would no longer be a part of my future.
Mhm.
There's just something in me that felt called to work with cancer patients. And so I moved out to Montana for the summer. The camp's called Camp Make a Dream and lived in Montana and worked with cancer patients and families and just really fell in love with the whole journey of what it means to be diagnosed and to go through treatment and to become resilient because of a cancer
Mm.
diagnosis. And I think it, on some level, not the same obviously, but on some level reminded me of what I went through in terms of like the resilience it takes to
Oh,
rehab
wow.
from a
Mhm.
significant injury. And so then, yeah, I just ended up doing clinical research and found myself at Fred Hutch doing phase 1, which is the first time the drug is in humans. And I learned a lot from that experience. It was life changing because most of the patients that came on the trials were terminal. And
Mhm.
so I recognized, I think, that I wanted to be in the oncology world, but I didn't necessarily see myself as an oncologist.
Mhm.
And went to medical school, and it just happened that one of my mentors suggested PM&R, and then I found cancer rehab, and it worked out. So
Yeah.
very grateful.
Wow, what a story. That's really incredible. It's so, I think, beautiful to see how, this is what you thought your life was, and then something happened, but out of that setback, you created something powerful and you want to help others through that resilience piece and helping them find their power through it. And yeah, that's
Well said.
incredible.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I didn't know that about your story. So wow,
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm learning
Yeah.
so much. That's incredible. So you
Yeah.
mentioned PM&R or
hmm
oncology rehab, but I want to give you a moment to kind of dive in a little deeper here for
Sure.
listeners who may not be familiar with PM&R or
Sure.
oncology rehab. Can you explain what it is and why it's such an important but often overlooked part of the cancer journey?
Yeah, there's not a lot of people actually that know what a PM&R doctor does. So I'll just go
Mhm.
back to the basics and then work up from there. So essentially, so yeah, I did my training in physical medicine and rehab. And what that means is, aside from my specialty, just in general, we look at any patient that has a chronic illness or a physical
Mm,
disability, and we try to optimize their function and quality of life. So, in terms of it can be like the whole spectrum from stroke, TBI, spinal cord injury, amputation, heart transplant. Like, we're talking any medical condition.
mm, mhm,
Obviously, I decided to focus specifically with cancer patients. And so, when we think about identifying functional goals, we think about very basic, from are you able to get yourself out of bed, to transfer out of bed into a chair, a walker? Can you dress yourself? Can you feed yourself? So we start very basic, and then obviously everyone's different, and
mhm,
goals depend on the diagnosis. Some people may have very simple goals, like I just want to be able to use the toilet independently. Other people may say, it's really important that I get a walk in. So whether that
mhm.
means like a 5 minute walk outside, or I can go for a 30-minute walk, we just try to help them essentially identify what their goals are and achieve them. So then when it comes to cancer rehab specifically, and I think it's important to clarify too that a PM&R cancer rehab doc is different than a cancer rehab physical therapist, because there is some confusion sometimes.
Mm, mhm,
But in terms of my clinical expertise, so I'm able to diagnose, treat, and manage. We look at physical, cognitive deficits, emotional, the social complications that come with a diagnosis and treatment. Symptoms that we generally address from the cancer rehab perspective is fatigue, muscle weakness, any kind of neurological deficit, mobility deficits, pain, lymphedema, deconditioning, any cognitive changes because of the diagnosis or treatment. Radiation fibrosis, spasticity is a common one as well, which is increased tone, which can happen when there's damage to the brain or spinal cord.
mhm,
So the list goes on, but I like to think of us, when I say us, cancer rehab PM&R docs, as neuromuscular, musculoskeletal, and neuro driven in terms
mm.
of the skill set and expertise. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, you broke that down so well. I think that really explains everything and not everything you do. There's so much I'm sure you didn't even mention because for the sake of time. And yeah, so incredible. So you've cared for patients across many stages of treatment and survivorship, as you've explained in your fellowship and beyond. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for FU cancer specifically to fill in some of the gaps that you might have seen in the past?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of gaps in healthcare these days.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest ones fall down to information is power, right? And so, not only information when you think about it from the clinician lens, but information when you
Right.
think about it also from the patient lens. And so, I think gaps in education when it comes to, let's say, from my perspective as the clinician, not being educated on exactly what the patient's going through, because we don't necessarily have the time or the energy or the space to dive into those conversations during
Hmm.
clinic visits, ultimately impacts care, right?
Yeah.
And from the patient lens, I think too, a lot of what we want to do is educate on risks or potential side effects or expectations moving through treatment into survivorship or end of life. And those conversations can be quite long because it's complex, and rightfully so. And sometimes, unfortunately, with the healthcare system these days, we just don't have time from the patient lens to dive into those, to really
Right.
understand the etiology
Hmm.
of what's going on to be able to best help them. So I think really from the lens of FU cancer, our goal is to empower and educate what patients may or may not know. If they already know about a certain topic, they can go dive in deeper using the platform. And if they don't know about it, they can educate themselves on it. But I think it does go both ways.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so great that we're filling that void, that it's not, it's not because clinicians don't care. It's because there's only so much time in the day and so many resources we have as a
Yeah.
broader healthcare system. So,
Yeah,
um,
and I
yeah,
will add too, if that's okay.
yeah.
I time and time again, I've had patients come to me and say, I didn't know that there was a cancer rehab physician. I didn't know
hmm
about lymphedema. I didn't know about X, Y, and Z.
hmm
And it's probably not because their oncology team, missed it. It's probably just that there's a lot of information being thrown at them. It's hard to take it all in, and it might have been a minor piece at that
hmm
time, right? But then becomes
Yeah.
major down the road. So,
Absolutely. Yes. Those kind of catching when things fall through the cracks, catching
mhm.
those questions and everything. Great. So a lot of cancer care, as we just discussed, focuses on treating the disease itself. How do you think the healthcare system could do a better job treating the whole person? So physically, emotionally, functionally.
I think that, and at least this is in my experience, most academic centers have a lot of supportive care resources. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say supportive care, I specifically mean similar to the pillars that we have at FU Cancer, focus on rehab, nutrition, and mental health. A lot of other centers can go beyond that too with neuropsych and lymphedema, but at least from what I've seen in the community, there is a lack of those supportive care resources for a variety of reasons. Um, Manpower, for instance, like is one of those. So I think having the access to more supportive care for those that are treated in a community setting or let's say more rural setting is
hmm
really important because those pillars address the whole person and not
hmm
just the disease and the treatment. Obviously, that's the priority. But when you look at quality of life and taking into account different factors that, really contribute to quality of life, there is so much more to a person than just their diagnosis. And so
Right.
I think really trying to enhance supportive care modalities is important, which is what we're
hmm
trying to do here at FU
Yeah,
Cancer.
exactly. That's the goal. So wonderful. And you are an integral part of FU Cancer. You are our Chief Medical Officer. So tell us a bit about your role as our CMO and why you decided to step into this position with FU Cancer.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this position. I think I myself felt frustrated at times with the healthcare system and just
Mhm.
not being able to offer my patients the services that I really felt like they needed or deserved or I wanted to offer to them for a variety of reasons. And I think beyond the clinical part, I also feel this drive for like some creative control and innovation, and I want to be able to think outside the box and have that
Mhm.
be okay.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, when I had the opportunity to join this company, I jumped at it. I think working alongside, as you know, our colleagues who I think we all want to make an impact at scale and we all push each other. We all
Mhm.
hold each other accountable, and we really try to think outside the box, which is important
Mhm.
to me. And growing up as a soccer player, being a part of a team is important to know
Mhm.
that I can really count on my colleagues to push me, which
Mhm.
I appreciate.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think beyond my reasons for joining, when you look at my role specifically, and when you think about like a startup company versus a company that's been well established for several years, the CMO role will differ. And so, in an earlier stage, which we are, my hands are in a lot of different pots. So I would say, obviously, like the basic foundational level, my clinical expertise and oversight and long-term vision from the clinician view is really important.
Mhm.
I also help with partnership and business development and clinical outcomes and clinical research, product development, thinking about strategic growth for the
Mhm.
company at whole. One of the programs that I've really enjoyed developing is our patient and caregiver champion program. So, selecting individuals, both patients and caregivers to really represent our company and give insight into what do we need to do as a company to really provide the services that we want to and to make a difference. That's been really special and important to me. So yeah, it's been a great experience so far, and I'm really happy with everything.
Yeah, well, we're honored to have you and just so excited for all that you're doing and continue to do. So exciting things on the horizon and exciting things happening. So awesome. And looking ahead a little bit, so what gives you hope about the future of cancer care? And what changes do you hope to see over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think cancer care in general is going to change a lot with AI. Obviously, we all know that
Yes.
it has
Yeah.
already.
Uh-huh.
And I think specifically, and because, given what we're doing here with FU Cancer, I would love to see change also with supportive care and making it
Mhm.
more integral and part of the standard of care
Mhm.
throughout the spectrum. I've heard so many patients tell me one example that I clearly remember is they end treatment, which is really exciting, and then they feel like they've been dropped off a
Mhm.
ledge
Mhm.
because there's no follow up. There's
Right.
no like they've had this consistency for so long and then it just stops suddenly. And so having this supportive care really be a part of this continuum
Mhm.
that there is not that dropping off of a ledge type feeling. It is just you're
Right.
constantly supported and this is just the next step.
Mhm.
I think would be amazing to have a standard of care. That would be my goal for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I agree. That is such a good goal to have. Yes. And then thinking more specifically about FU cancer, when you think about the future of FU cancer, what do you hope this community becomes, not just as a platform, but as a movement within cancer care?
So I really believe in this company. I think it will be transformative. I think it's going to be a transformative digital health movement.
Hmm.
Obviously, focusing on the three things that I talked about: the rehab, the nutrition, and the mindfulness.
Hmm.
I think the goal and what we're really focused on in terms of moving forward is to empower and educate and support both patients and caregivers across every stage. So from
Hmm.
day of diagnosis into survivorship, long term survivorship, and then also end of life. And really looking at driving these measurable improvements in clinical outcomes too, which is really important for us, and
Hmm.
closing the gap, like I had said, to access to care.
Right.
And ultimately, I think ensuring that every person that goes through this journey can have access and really discover the answers that they need to. They have the resources and the treatment options that is best for them
Hmm.
and that they might not have known existed. So, yeah, and I think the final piece of the puzzle would be that I'm just really grateful to work alongside really ambitious individuals, very talented, who really challenge the status quo and embrace really bold ideas and aren't afraid to take calculated risks if they feel confident in order to pursue a meaningful impact on the future. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Well, we're so lucky to have you and just so grateful and so excited for what the future holds at FU Cancer. And thank you again for everything you do for us and your passion just shines through you. And yeah, it's just an honor to have you. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Juliet.
Yes, of course. The conversation doesn't end here. Join our community today at fucancer.health for trusted education, real community, and resources. We are here for you every step of the way.